Hello. Thanks for being here. Let's just dive right in, right? So about 2 months ago, Eran, my client, was on the brink of quitting his job. He was feeling very burnt out, stuck in autopilot, really struggling mentally, physically, emotionally, struggled to concentrate, was like easily distracted, and really found it quite difficult to maintain his focus on his task and in his role as a high ticket sales leader and agent, and was spiraling a lot in self doubt. So today he's averaging 40K per week in revenue. When we first started, he was averaging about 20K a week. He's saved more money than ever. He shows up with calm, with confidence, his clarity. He's able to maintain focus for an extended period of time. And in this video, I'm actually going to break down exactly how we did it, step by step, sharing all the tools, all the guidance that I have shared with Eran so that you can get access to it as well. No holding anything back. I really want to try and make this as accessible and easy as possible, or at least help open the door for you, so to speak, as Morpheus would say, but you ultimately having to walk through it and actually take and apply the tools that I share with you, because as you and I both know, if you walk away from this video and you kind of put it away, simply absorbing the information isn't going to make the change. So if you're really serious about it, please not only stick to the end, but take notes about everything I speak about, all the tools, and implement them for at least a month and see how that goes. Okay? All right. Come on, Dave. Let's dive in. So, Iran's starting point about 2 months ago. So like I mentioned before, he was very burnt out, was actually on the brink of quitting his job after a couple of his worst months in sales. For context, his best month in sales was, of all time, 250K in revenue, and he was struggling to write 120K in revenue for a few months in a row. And so he was kind of stuck in autopilot, didn't really have any motivation or direction. And also, this was compounded by the fact that he had tied his self-worth to his performance and external results, which I think all of us, it's a bold statement, but I feel like all of us have either struggled with this in the past or are struggling with it now, simply because of the way that we've been conditioned in society to really feel valuable based upon our productivity and our output. So I'm sharing this because if you're feeling like this, you're definitely not alone. I've struggled with this. Iran struggled with this. You know, he was just keeping an eye on the time because I also want to make this as succinct as possible. He was really struggling because his results weren't there, and because his results weren't there, his self-worth really suffered, and it kind of reinforced this loop that I'm not good enough. And we'll talk a little bit further about that and how to break that cycle, but it created this very vicious cycle for Iran, and continued to feel worse and worse about himself as each poor sales month went by. To make matters worse, he really struggled with emotional regulation, would kind of go into different overstimulated states or over-functioning states of his nervous system, struggled to manage his stress effectively, and like I mentioned before, scattered focus. Now, he's neurodivergent, he has ADHD, and the way he expressed it is having like a very chaotic mind, like 150 billion thoughts in his head at one time, which made it really difficult for him not only to focus, but also to build discipline and consistency in his routine, in his sales calls, because what happens is when ADHD is unregulated versus regulated, which we'll talk about and which you probably have seen online already, since I talk more about that in the content piece as well, then it continues to breed the same cycles of distraction and burnout. But ADHD is actually a superpower when it's channeled in the right way, and when structure and routine and nervous system regulation is introduced, which we'll talk about shortly as well. It can lead to a completely different story. Okay, let's dive in. Before we do that though, I do want to ask you, just in light of what I've shared about Iran, and from what you can hear from some of the language I've used around scattered focus, dysregulated nervous system, difficulty managing stress, all of these different challenges and pain points, I want to ask you, in your role, in your career, in your business, in your work, how are you showing up? Where would you say you're currently operating from? Is it from pressure, like I need to do this, otherwise XYZ will happen? Or is it from presence, from purpose? Are you coming from a place of fear? Like, I need to get this done because I don't have enough. If I don't, then I'll run out of money or time or whatever your narrative or story is. Or is it coming from a place of purpose versus survival, right? So just something to think about, something to chew on. You don't need to have an answer right now, but I really think it's important to get into a habit and practice of constantly checking in with yourself. Where am I currently operating from? Because that has a definitive impact on your energy and how you are creating and serving in your role. Okay, let's dive in. Let's go. So one of the first things that I shared with Eran was reprogramming his self-image. Now, to explain what that is, we need to look at what self-image is, otherwise known as your identity. Now, your identity is an accumulation of different habits and characteristics that are created over the course of a lifetime that is ultimately a construct, that is ultimately a concept, right? So your identity is really just an idea, to boil it down. I know that might, bake a few noodles, but the reality is your identity is a concept. It is an idea that you have about yourself, the way I look, the way David dresses, the way David communicates, the way David shows up in friendships and relationships, right? That is an idea. And because it's an idea, it means you can change it. So self-image and identity are used interchangeably because your self-image or identity is kind of like how you see yourself or what you believe about yourself, right? Or how you feel about yourself, how you see yourself, what you believe about yourself to be true. Now, this is really, really powerful to understand because your identity or self-image actually drives your behavior and as a result, your results. Now, I'm going to include an image here to kind of explain this in more detail. I call this the cycle of creation, right? So what you believe about yourself or how you see yourself or your self-image influences the thoughts that you have on a moment-by-moment basis. Thoughts are an electrical conductivity in the brain which are transmitted through your nervous system and expressed as an emotion. If you think a fearful thought, you experience fear or panic or anxiety in your nervous system as an emotion, right? Pretty straightforward. Your emotions influence your actions, and your actions produce your results. And you'll look at your results and be like, oh, that's great. I crushed it. I'm awesome, which reinforces an awesome self-image. Or, I didn't crush it. I failed. I'm not good enough, and it reinforces a poor self-image, right? This is not woo-woo. This is just a fundamental understanding of behavioral psychology and neuroscience. So when we can change our self-concept or self-perception or self-image, it actually shifts results. So I took Eran through a series of subconscious reprogramming exercises to rewrite his limiting beliefs specifically about worth and money, okay? Secondly, he engaged in a daily self-image priming practice and belief reinforcement, which included either writing out his new identity, how he would like to see himself, listening to it daily, first thing in the morning when his subconscious is more open to suggestion, which we can talk about in more depth shortly, and also reframing money as a tool for freedom, not validation, because in his workplace and in that environment, and certainly in sales as well, it can be easy for some people to slip into this mindset that money lets me know that I'm good enough. If I'm receiving a lot of money, I'm doing well. If I'm not, then I'm not doing well, right? So that subtle shift from money as a tool for Eran's freedom and possibility for his vision and his creative pursuits completely shifted how he saw money and also how he saw himself, right? Now, I actually want to kind of ground this and what I'm sharing with you in some practical exercises. What I really want you to do is write down 3 internal stories or narratives or ideas or beliefs that are currently holding you back. And just notice, like, even the way you talk about yourself, perhaps with friends or with family. Maybe it's something like, I'm not good with money, or I'm too distracted, or I struggle to be consistent, or I procrastinate, right? Whatever it is, even though it may seem true for you, right? Just identify what that story is and write it down, okay? Then replace them with new empowering identities. So instead of I'm not good with money, I am building wealth. Instead of I'm too distracted, I focus deeply on what matters. Instead of I procrastinate, you can replace it with I am consistent and disciplined in everything that I do. Now, this isn't just about blindly writing down affirmations. I want to make that clear, okay? What's really important is for you to now go deeper and source evidence from your current or past life experience that validates and reinforces this new identity that you're building for yourself. So if it's I'm building wealth, then source evidence for when you have made certain investments or saved money that can actually reinforce that new identity. If it's I'm consistent and disciplined in everything that I do, maybe source evidence for when you have consistently gone to the gym or eaten really healthily, right? And then keep stacking that evidence, because what you're doing then is you're actually demonstrating to your brain that you are this person, that you're capable of being this person and stepping into this identity. All right? Let me know how you go. We're going to push on. Now, nervous system regulation, you probably hear it very often in the personal development space, especially if you are into this stuff. And for good reason, because I believe top performers, high achievers are those who are able to connect with and regulate their nervous system very effectively. Now, the aim of the game isn't to just always be in a peaceful state, love and light, rah, 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 okay? It's not about that, because there are going to be certain situations and circumstances that are really difficult, scary, triggering. They're going to put you into fight or flight, okay? And that's okay, right? It's kind of beautiful that we have this system that's been designed to protect us from very real danger and threat. But if we stay too long in a sympathetic dominance, it produces all kinds of inflammatory proteins and can actually wreak havoc on our system. So we really want to get into a habit and practice of down-regulating the nervous system and being able to then come from a peaceful, grounded, authentic place as opposed to fearful, stress-based place. Okay. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, like, your nervous system will influence the energetic, emotional state that you're operating from. If you are feeling stressed and anxious, common sense will dictate that you're going to take stressed, anxious type actions, leading to stressed, anxious type results. Okay, so being able to constantly check in with your nervous system, which few of us do, but those that do understand how powerful that is, and those who don't, when they start doing it, start to realize, holy shit, my nervous system has been fried for so long, I finally get a glimpse of what it's like to feel peace and safety in my body. And that's what this is all about. Now, how Eran did it is through breath work, EFT tapping. So breath work, I mean, it's pretty common now. You probably have heard of it. EFT tapping is a little less, you might not have heard of it. Those weird tapping things that I did are actually really, really powerful for, again, calming the nervous system down and being able to switch on your parasympathetic nervous system. And also program new beliefs in as well. We can do a whole another video on EFT tapping, but we don't have all the time in the world. We're already at 15 minutes. I promised I was going to keep this short, so let's keep going. I really want to pack in as much as I can here. We also used a concentration protocol. Now, one of my teachers, who's sadly passed away now, but led Harvard's psychology department for about 4 decades and is a well-known meditation master and instructor, helped bring a lot of sacred knowledge from the East to the West, and took a bunch of advanced meditators through this concentration protocol, which I have learned, I've absorbed, I've adapted through my own work and through my work with clients, which I've shared with clients like Eran. And it's super, super easy and super, super powerful to actually strengthen your metacognitive awareness. Metacognitive awareness is your awareness of how you think, right? So it's being able to notice when you might be getting distracted, or when the allure of your phone social media app is dragging you in to the algorithm and you're able to pull yourself back out of it. Or it's having the awareness of, oh, I'm thinking a negative thought that doesn't serve me, and I've immediately identified that and I can let it go, right? It's becoming more conscious. So that's really powerful as well for someone like Eran, who has ADHD, to be able to channel his energy and focus into one direction was such a game changer for him. And we'll get to the transformation shortly. Now, what that did for him and his nervous system as well is over time it built safety in his body, and he learned to shift from fight or flight into a parasympathetic rest, rejuvenate, digest state, which was really powerful for him when he jumped onto sales calls with prospects, because he was coming from a really grounded place. He was feeling at peace. He was feeling very present with his prospect. He wasn't in a fight or flight state with his amygdala firing, worrying about not having enough money or worrying about trying to sell this person. He was just grounded. And that came across in his tone, and he was able to write more sales. Now, that awareness through breathwork, through EFT tapping, through a concentration and meditation protocol helped Eran build a greater awareness of his emotional triggers. And he was then able to notice when he slipped into fight or flight and could quickly and swiftly bring him back into a baseline level of calm and equanimity and balance. So as a result, his calls shifted from this pressure and tension to constantly be performing and chasing money to presence, safety, groundedness, to serve and to relate to whoever he was talking to on the phone. Now, what that really meant was that there was a less attachment to the outcome, less attachment to the result, right? When you don't care about what's going to happen, it actually builds a subtle level of confidence within you because you're not operating from fear. And that confidence that Eran exuded, like I said before, was felt and received by his prospects over the phone, which led to a higher conversion, right? Now, again, some practical exercises for you. We don't do this enough. Okay, we don't do this enough. And boy, I realized I was not doing this enough until I got into this. Breathing. We don't do it enough. And we don't do proper breathing enough. What I mean by that is most of the breaths that we take are very shallow breaths. So just into the chest, right? And that kind of breath actually sends a signal to the brain that you're in danger because those shallow breaths are typically the same breaths that we take if we're being chased by a lion or a tiger, as we would in a savannah back in the day, which kind of gave rise to this hindbrain, this mammalian, instinctive survival mechanism that we have in our nervous system. Now, what I mean by we don't breathe properly is really taking deep belly breaths where you can feel your belly expand as big as you can, right? No judgment. I got a big ass belly when I take big belly breaths, right? Try 3 minutes, just 3 minutes. That's 180 seconds of deep belly breathing before a block of work and notice how you feel. Notice how much calmer you feel. Just 3 minutes. Okay, that is just like a very basic, simplistic form of breath work that you can do to actually signal safety within the body. And like Eran, approach your work with a level of presence and groundedness, which, like Eran, can translate into a greater performance. Now, the concentration protocol is a very it's a journey that I would love to personally take you on when we work together in the future, if that's something that you feel called to doing. But to break it down into as simple terms as possible, when you are sitting down to concentrate or to learn how to concentrate, we want to just focus on an object of concentration, right? That's how you sharpen and strengthen your metacognitive awareness. So what you can do is just by starting with focusing your attention and concentrating on what it feels like to inhale, what it feels like to exhale, and what it feels like to just sit down on your chair just for 5 minutes, okay? That in and of itself is a form of concentration practice. If you do that daily again, take these notes, implement them, and see how you feel after 30 days. And just track how your focus, your confidence, and your emotional state begin to change. Now, I also mentioned EFT tapping. That's another really powerful practice as well. I actually have a free EFT tapping walkthrough on my website under free stuff, or under resources. I think I changed the name. So I'll include the link to that in the description, and we will push on as well. All right, 21 minutes. Okay, let's try and bring this in for a landing. Structure and routine is important, and for those people who have ADHD, it can actually be very liberating instead of limiting, right? And what that looked like for Eran was starting his morning routine with getting some sun, going for a walk, getting some water on board, priming and programming his brain with his self-image statement, which he had written out and recorded himself saying aloud. So he would listen to that every morning. And he had anchored these habits into his day to set himself up for success and actually massively reduced his decision fatigue, which can be a real challenge for those with ADHD, right? Like I said before, he used the concentration protocol to train his focus. As a result, his focus and concentration score, which he rated himself on before we started working together as a 3 out of 10, jumped to 8 out of 10 at the end of our journey, right? And his weekly revenue increased to $40,000 a week when he was sitting at about $20,000 a week when we were working together. And he actually had his best week at $65,000 a week, which is unreal. Now, what I want you to do to implement to really get into a habit and a practice of building structure and consistency in your day, and like Eran, to reduce decision fatigue, is to create a 3-step morning activation sequence and repeat it daily for 21 days. This is not about waking up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., meditating, sauna, gym, sun salutations and turning it into a 4-hour morning routine, right? This is not about that at all. This isn't about waking up super duper early. There's lots of messaging out there that, says that that's the best way. Just do what works for you, okay? If you're someone that naturally wakes up early, great, okay? Set aside just 3 steps, and this is not about trying to do what other people are doing, right? If you feel called to meditate, great, meditate. If you don't, cool. If you feel called to going for a walk like Eran does, great, do that. Whatever helps you clear your head, whatever helps you approach your day with a sense of peace and openness and positivity and gratitude, all of that good stuff. Just find 3 things that are going to help you set your day up for success and stick to it daily for 21 days, okay? And I would encourage you, like Eran did, to anchor in your focus sessions for deep work to specific times of the day when your energy is highest. That way you're really maximizing your energy and getting the most out of yourself in your work. All right. I think we're in the last segment. I'm going to try and bring this in for a landing under 30 minutes. Let's see how we go. Unfortunately, in society, there is this perception, like I was saying before, that if you're not doing anything, that you're useless or somehow you're not worthy or you're not valuable, which is such a fallacy and so untrue and so toxic, right? And I have felt that in my bones for so long. Like if I wasn't producing, if I wasn't succeeding, I was a nobody, right? And so this shift from doing to being that Eran did was a real game changer for him, because it meant that he stopped performing from pressure and he just felt more content and more secure in who he is, which is really important, which you deserve to feel that way as well, right? And so how Eran did it was he connected really deeply to his why. So he has goals, he has a vision, but what's underneath that is the deeper why that really drives and motivates him. And that can be really powerful to tap into, to emotionally connect to, because then you reframe, or Eran reframed his goals around meaning and purpose instead of validation, right? And that is so much more inspiring. Think about like, if someone has a goal of earning $1 million and that's just the goal, right? Okay, cool. But then if it's $1 million to, help fund my dad's retirement, or to travel the world with my loved one, my partner, or to, to support, pay my mum's medical bills, to support her treatment, whatever it might be, right? That underlying why is so much more emotionally charged and inspiring, which helped Eran really take action from a more meaningful place. And part of the work that we did, which is some of the deeper work that we do as well in my program, is healing old emotional wounds around success and worthiness, which often stem from childhood, where we, I speak very generally, but most of us have been conditioned to kind of perform for love, right? And to, we were sort of praised and acknowledged and validated when we succeeded. And so that created this belief that in order to receive love, I must achieve, okay? Might not be you, right? I know that many of us have gone through that. I know that I've certainly gone through that. So when I say we, I'm speaking very generally. And being able to reclaim those suppressed parts of Eran that knows his inherent worth led to a genuine confidence and peace on his behalf. His self-confidence score doubled from a 4 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10. Amazing. His emotional well-being and his motivation at work dramatically improved. He actually felt happy at work. He enjoyed being there. He didn't quit his job. And what I love so much, most importantly, he said, I love who I am. I look in the mirror and smile. It's such a beautiful reflection. Now, the exercise for you is to journal around this idea. If success didn't have to prove anything, what would I pursue and why? If success didn't have to prove anything to anyone, what would I pursue and why? And this is really an exercise in helping you identify where you're still chasing validation instead of a deeper, more emotionally resonant and inspiring vision. Okay? Now, what all of this means for you is that external results in health, relationships, business, finances, all of those external results, right? They change after your internal state changes. So working with the mind, working with the nervous system, working with the emotions, right? All of this work that I took Eran through is the root cause of everything that you see out there, okay? when your identity shifts, your self-image, your concept of yourself shifts, influences the thoughts that you have about yourself, the emotions that you experience, the behavior or the actions that you take, and the results that you produce. Nervous system regulation is the foundation of peak performance. I will die on this hill, okay? You are not going to be able to produce the kind of dream life and success that you want to create from a stressed, burnt out, fried nervous system. You might for a little bit, but you won't be able to hold it and maintain it because your system doesn't have capacity. It's trying to survive. And in that vein, this is just a reminder that there's nothing to fix here. You don't need to fix yourself. This is an opportunity and an invitation to understand and repattern and re-educate yourself, your mind and your nervous system. Okay? All right, we'll bring this in for a landing. I've tried to give you as much as I possibly can here. Let me know in the comments if there's something that you didn't understand or if you want more information. There's lots of info on my website as well. I try and share as many resources as I possibly can. Please check it out. I'll include it in the description. And if Eran's story resonated with you, it's probably because you're in the same place that he was, It's probably, that's just the case for so many of us. That's been the case for me over the last year as well, where you might be working hard, chasing results, but you're not really seeing the breakthroughs that you deserve. And the truth is that nothing changes until you do, until you change your mind, until you change your nervous system. So if you are ready to work on the deeper layers, if you're sick of just chasing external things, the strategy and the systems and trying to change stuff out there, but you're ready to kind of go inwards and reflect on where your self-image is set, how your nervous system is primed, and, go deeper into subconscious reprogramming in the way that Eran did. This is the work that I do with my clients every day. So I'll include a link in the description as well for a call with me, which is entirely free, and it's an opportunity to see if you would be a good fit for my program, and the website as well, with some free resources if you want to kind of check those out first. I totally get it. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for kind of sticking around to the end. Lots of love, and have a really, really beautiful day. See ya.